My name is TemiTope Olodo. I'm a preventive counterterrorism expert. I live in the United Kingdom. I've lived there for many years, for over 2 decades now, and I've got a lot of interest in security. My interest in security actually started with my work in Her Majesty government, which has spanned over 9 years. I've worked in the private, voluntary, and public sector. I've dealt with security. I've represented Her Majesty in many meetings. I've written books on security, and I'll be sharing more about that later. But the main reason for this discussion today, or for this analysis, is to address the issue of security in our community. 6 years ago, when you talked about terrorism, a lot of people within the African community will beat their chest to say that we don't have that problem of security in our community because we come from a family valued system where we respect elders, where we are able to approach people and express our concerns, and where those concerns could be addressed by elders. But we are now in a new generation where people are being radicalized, where people are becoming violent, where people are getting involved in things they should not be getting into. And we're now asking the questions: could there be sleeper cells in the United Kingdom or in Europe? Is radicalization taking place in our community as we speak? Are people planning to get involved in criminality in our community, which will affect us as an entity, as a community? These are issues that I want to address today. I want to look at the issues of how the UK government and other European governments are addressing violence extremism stemming out of the African community, and to start asking ourselves questions: do we know if this is really real? Is it really happening? Are people being radicalized around you and you're not aware of it? Do you know what the triggers are? Are you aware of people that have these extreme views, and are you reporting them to the appropriate authorities? Do you understand what it means when an organization has been proscribed and what you should be doing? Are you supposed to be giving money to organizations that you don't know? No. Are you promoting extremism without knowing it because you're sending money to the wrong person or to somebody that is actually involved in violence extremism? Those are issues that we want to look into. I remember growing up in some part of Nigeria where violence extremism and radicalization, Islamic radicalization, was spreading, and government was not doing anything about it. We have now got to a stage now where we have an organization that calls itself Boko Haram, and Boko Haram means no to education, that would forbid Western education, and they've gone around to kill a lot of people. They're prosecuting Christians in northern part of Nigeria. They're burning people's houses. They're killing people, assassinating people, and the government has not actually got a grip of it. In fact, the president of Nigeria, President Goodluck Jonathan, went ahead to invoke a section of the Constitution, to create emergency what we call emergency law, and as a result the army took over those areas, and yet there was no containment strategy. What I meant by containment strategy is that this group, this sect, Boko Haram, kept on hitting those areas, even to the extent that they've gone ahead to hit army installation. They've gone into army installations, and we're now asking the questions: when Boko Haram hit military installations, is that deemed as terrorism? Because actually there are different definitions of terrorism. When you hit an established government structure, in some places it might be deemed that they are just freedom fighters. They are getting sympathy from people within the community because they are within that community and they are hidden within that community. They are brothers to somebody, they are sisters to somebody, they are son of somebody, and they are married to somebody. So there is a lot of complications and dynamics to the issue of violence extremism, and those are issues that we're going to be looking at in this segment and addressing. Now let's go back and look at the UK. After the 7/7 bombing, the UK government decided to establish or to create a strategy, and the strategy is called contest and includes 4 P's. We're talking about how to prevent terrorism, how to pursue terrorism, how to prepare for terrorism, and how to protect for terrorism. I had the privilege of working for the UK government in the Office for Security and Counter-Terrorism, where part of the issues that I dealt with was the prevent aspect. And this is how to prevent terrorism, how to stop people from becoming terrorists, how to de-radicalize people. And these are the kind of skill sets that I'm going to bring into play here, and speaking to community leaders to try to look at how we could work together, collectively, to try and stem out, people with, demonic, I'll call it demonic, people with demonic and diabolical ideas that could bring our community into a serious challenge where people are being killed. Unfortunately, we had an incident in Woolwich where 2 British Nigerian youths decided to slaughter a military personnel on the streets of London. And they did that, and the news spread all over the world. And as a result of their action, a lot of issues and policy directions were changed. You might not be aware of it, but now Boko Haram is proscribed in the United Kingdom. ASROP, which is another organization in Nigeria, is proscribed. What does that really mean? For an organization to be proscribed. We know that in our community we raise funds for for community issues. So maybe there's famine, or there are people that need food and clothing, and you give these things, like arms to and charity work, and you give money. Do you know where your money is going into? Do you know if those organizations are legitimate? Those are the kind of issues that we'll be addressing through this segment. We're going to have a short break now, and after the short break, we're going to look at the issue of radicalization within our community. What are the triggers? What are the issues that you need to look out for? Who do you report to? Who do you speak to? Well, we hope that you've enjoyed the first segment, and as we go into the next segment, you'll be getting more information from us. Okay, welcome back. I hope you enjoyed the first segment. Now we're going to look into the issue of radicalization within our community. Now this is a very, very serious issue, because for the first time in a very long time since our interactions as Africans with the British and within the community that we are now compounded with loads of violent extremism. The government is looking at people that are from Mali, trying to sort them out to make sure that they're not involved in violence extremism, because we know about terrorism in Mali, we know about terrorism in Senegal, we know about terrorism in Angola, we know about terrorism in Nigeria, we know about terrorism in Egypt. Everywhere you look, from northwest, southeast, even up to Kenya, where there was the shopping center attack, similar to the Mumbai attack, where a lot of people lost their lives. We as Africans have never been under focus like we are now. Now, how do we ensure that our youths are not traveling with their British passports and going over there to be radicalized only to come back and import terrorism into the United Kingdom or into mainland Britain? Part of the issues that I think we should be looking at as I speak to you is the issue of radicalization within our community and what we need to look out for. Let's start with schools and our home. One of the issues that I've come to realize is that parents are so busy that they're not recognizing simple signs. So you could see your child, listening to specific music that promotes violent extremism, maybe listening to certain kind of language or watching certain things on YouTube. So some of them might be, they might say they're doing educational work, but actually when you go deeper into it, or you open up the laptop to look at it, you find out that they're listening to messages of many preachers who are actually talking about violent things like jihad from an extreme view. Those are kind of things that you need to look at for. Those are trigger issues. What about if your child comes back from school and you're talking about maybe religion, or you're talking about certain issues like maybe homosexualism, or parenting issues and the issue of religion, and you notice that your child now has extreme views which are not things that you've taught your child, or your child is now isolating himself or herself from the rest of the family and getting involved with people that you don't really know. How do you tackle that? As a teacher in the community, and you notice that a child is now coming up with certain political or socio-political ideologies which are linked to violence extremism or religious extremism, have you actually asked yourself, is this child being radicalized or being influenced by somebody else? As a doctor or as a medical practitioner in our community, have you been invited to look at a child who is having mood swings, and you notice that in the discussion and engagement with the family, they are having certain thoughts or they're expressing certain concerns about their child? Who have you spoken to? Now, there are different groups and agencies within the UK that actually look at these issues, and I'll mention one of them. One of them is called Channel. Channel is a government-funded project that look at youths that are being radicalized, and youths that are getting into trouble, and the funds are there to help you. And people like myself, if you read one of my books, which is called Counter-Terrorism Guidance for Religious Leaders, it's on the website, it's on my website, and if you Google it, you actually come in contact with that book. It actually gives advice to religious leaders on how to protect your building against counter-terrorism, against terrorism attack, and how to address some of the concerns and signals that you should be looking out for. Now, across Africa, unfortunately, our security is not well robust. We don't have very strong institutions. Even our medias are not well trained to be able to work with the community to address issue of violence extremism. So what we've noticed is that groups like El Shabaab, groups like Boko Haram, and the other ones in Mali and Egypt are using the media more effectively to promote their narratives. And the questions we're asking now is, what are we doing as a community to counter those narratives? Some of those issues need to be dealt with. So, for example, within the religious sectors in our community here in the UK, what are we doing to address issue of violence extremism and growth of radicalization in our community? What kind of lessons or structures do we have in place to ensure that our youth are taught the right things about things like jihad, about relationship with community leaders, relationship with politicians, how to address issue of grievance, who to speak to when you are grieved, who to speak to when you are approached by people with violent thoughts or things that are not acceptable within our community. Those are the kind of issues that I deal with, and I know one or two people within our communities are looking into to address. Some of the issues that we're also looking at addressing is working with our community leaders. So leaders of diaspora networks like the Somalian network, the Nigerian diaspora network known as NIDO, the Kenya networks, to say, okay, our professionals, some of our youths now, because of the economic downturn in the community, don't have jobs, and people are now using that as a magnetic strategy to get them involved in criminal activities, and from there saying, we'll pay you money to go abroad and get training in training camps. So we need to know where our kids are going. We need to be able to know what they are doing, where they are going, who they are talking to. Youths nowadays are very advanced, and they know how to use know how to use the internet. If you want to get involved in the Somalia war and the extreme the counterterrorism challenges there, most of our kids will not go straight to Somalia. They will go to Kenya, or they could even travel to other countries around that region and then go by road. So you would actually know. They will say, oh, we're going to go and see our great grandmother, or want to go to our village to go and understand community. But you need to know exactly what they're doing, need to know who they are talking to, need to know. So those are the kind of issues that we'll be looking into in other segments, and how to address those issues. Welcome back. This is the last segment, and you'll be hearing more from me, because we'll be bringing on board, practitioners, security practitioners within our community leaders, for one-to-one discussions on what are the challenges here. We are so busy now running to look for money to feed our kids and to make them have a good life, that we are not actually monitoring their progress and understanding who they are, or which crowd they are moving into. And what we don't want is a situation where our kids are handcuffed before we realize that there is a challenge. So we need to work together. You need to stay tuned and listen to some of the discussions. If you have ideas and issues that you want us to look into, if your kids are involved in things that you don't know who to speak to, please get in touch with us. Our numbers are going to be displayed. Our emails are going to be there. Get in touch with us. If you have a story for us on issue of security, we will come and investigate these issues. And we are not restricted to London alone. We are across the whole of Europe, and we'll be more than happy to come into your community to look at the issues and challenges that you have, and to address those challenges with you, so that as one, we as Africans could be proud to be Africans.